The trouble struck my farm like a lightning bolt on a sunny day. The instant my prize goose commander Quack went crazy, charging at the heavens like a bird berserker. I had dropped my feed bucket grain scattering on the ground and followed his crazed stare. There, cutting across the morning stillness, was a drone, its blades whining like a swarm of mechanical wasps. It hove low, too low, its camera glinting with evil intentions. This wasn't some kid's toy, this was a declaration of war, and I knew exactly who was behind it. Lydia, my neighbor from hell, the self-appointed dictator of our rural corner of the world. The morning had started like a dream. The sun draped my fields in golden light. The roosters crowed from the barn roof, and the air carried the sweet scent of fresh hay. My geese, led by Commander Quack, waddled out of their coop, stretching their wings and pecking the ground with lordly disdain. It was the sort of day that made all blisters and early mornings worthwhile. I was in the midst of feeding goats when the vase broke. A queer hum snipped across the air, accompanied by zooming shadows on the lawn. Shielding my eyes from the sunlight, I saw a black drone hugging my field like a robber scoping out a bank. My stomach writhed. This wasn't accident. There was someone looking for trouble. I cleaned my hands on my jeans and looked out at the horizon. There she stood beyond the distant fence, arms folded, sunglasses sitting atop her nose, and a grin that could milk Titan Lydia from the Homeowners Association. Lydia, who'd taken it as her life's work to harass anyone who would live outside of her regulations. We'd had run-ins before about things like too many pumpkins on my front porch or a scarecrow. She said was frightening the children. But this drone spying at my farm, this was a new low even for her. I took binoculars out of the barn and turned my attention on her. Sure enough, she gripped a drone controller, her eyes shining with the thrill of the hunt. I clenched. Jaw strode across the field, Commander Quack strutting furiously at my side. By the time I arrived at the fence, her drone was humming just above my head, its camera trained on me like a sniper scope. I leaned against a post, tipped my hat back, and forced a smile. "Morning, Lydia," I said, voice dripping with mock courtesy. Her smirk grew tighter. "Just making sure to comply, Tom," she added, sweetening the venom. "HOA rules, you know." I gestured at the drone. "That's intrusion. Bring it down." She laughed, a stiff bark that grated my nerves. "Airspace is public, Tom. I fly where I want." Heat flushed my chest, but I played it cool. She wanted me to lose my temper. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "Fair enough," I said, equaling her grin. "But don't bawl when it comes back on her." Her eyebrow rose. A threat. "Just a warning," I said, turning back towards the barn, my mind already in gear. I couldn't touch the drone without getting into trouble, but I didn't need to. I had an army geese commanded by Commander Quack, a flock so vicious they'd chased away coyotes, dogs, even a delivery guy who got too big for his britches. If Lydia felt like poking this hornet's nest, I'd let her have the sting. In the barn, I rallied the troops, Commander. Quack stepped forward, chest-puffed eyes blazing with purpose. I threw corn to get them riled up, their honks echoing like war cries. That night, I lay awake, thinking out a plan Lydia wouldn't make do with one flyby. She'd keep coming until she spotted something to turn into a trespass. I needed to be prepared. I set up glistening flags in the distant field to draw in her drone near installed sensors that appeared as farm tools, and doubled the rations of geese to keep them wild. When I eventually made it to the bed, a smile crossed my face. Tomorrow the actual battle would commence. As I fell asleep, the gentle honks of my army outside lulled me asleep, dreaming of triumph. Lydia was probably polishing her drone smug in her belief she'd won. Let her think that she had no conception what was about to hit. The next morning, the sun rose with a burning edge, as if it was aware there was going to be a fight. I put on my boots, took a feed bucket, and stepped into the cold air. Commander Quack was standing there, feathers puffed out to twice size. The rest of the geese huddled like soldiers ready for orders. I scattered food and let them pounce on it with the ferocity I'd require for the mission. Geese are natural-born territorialists, but I refined their bite, throwing bright frisbees around the yard to simulate drones. They ran them down, snapping and flapping, Commander Quack, barking orders with honks and charges. By lunchtime they were tired but primed. I gave them a break while I prepared the trap, shiny flags glinting in the wind decoy structures like strange barrels, and a spooky windmill to pique Lydia's interest and motion sensors to notify me when she hit. Hours ticked by. I worked the fields, one eye on the sky, half believing Lydia had backed away. Then as the sun set low, the hum cut the quiet. My heart thudded. The geese roused heads swiveling. I scattered corn to place them behind the decoys. Commander Quack at the front, eyes shining. The drone zoomed into sight, whizzing high, then diving to the flags. It lingered close to the ground, camera aghast. Wonderful. I crouched behind a bale of hay binoculars, focused, and sounded a harsh whistle. The geese exploded like a fluffy tsunami, calling out and running. Commander Quack bounded, stamping the drone with a wing, sending it tumbling. The flock attacked, nipping rotors, biting blades. The drone stumbled, careened, and banged into the dust and feathers. Commander Quack stalked around the wreck, kicking it as though it was a fallen enemy from Lydia's land. A scream of fury rang out. I smiled, summoning the geese back with corn, appreciating their bravery. They'd won this time, but I knew Lydia. This was only the beginning. The next morning, angry drumming woke me. I ambled to the door, coffee in hand, and there was Lydia, red-faced, holding a mangled drone piece like a trophy of war. "You owe me $1,200, she bellowed. I leaned back against the doorframe, sipping coffee. "Lydia, you flew that thing over my property. My geese merely guarded their home." She opened her mouth, but I interrupted her. "I've got you on tape, controller in hand." Her eyes became wider, then slim. Her face pouted and stormed off, complaining about lawyers. Commander Quack waddled over, glaring at her departure. I grinned, but wariness lingered. Lydia didn't give up. By noon, trouble intensified. A car drove into my driveway. Not Lydia, but a man in a tacky clipboard in hand, claiming to be from HOA compliance. Lydia had filed a complaint accusing me of harboring dangerous animals, an aerial inspection rule violator. I bit down a laugh. Dangerous animals, I explained. My geese were common livestock, and any drone on my property was trespassing. I offered to allow him to view the video of Lydia's stunt. He grumbled uncomfortable and departed without a citation. But the following day, a letter arrived, a formal HOA notice requiring I face a disciplinary hearing, threats of fines and legal action. If I didn't do as I was told, I sat on the porch. Commander Quack sitting next to me, looking at the letter Lydia was using the HOA. I had to come up with a plan. I spent days mobilizing neighbors, most of whom had their own Lydia horror stories fines, for out-of-sight garden hoses, gripes about premature Christmas lights. I collected signed statements, photos, and a dossier full of her stunts. Meanwhile, Lydia went around spreading lies. My geese harassed children, carried diseases, were trained killers. Some neighbors purchased it, casting suspicious glances. The air was thick with tension. At the hearing, the HOA clubhouse was full. Neighbors, board members, even reporters, sniffing for drama. Lydia sat in the front wearing a neck brace and dark glasses, playing victim. I almost giggled. She began a dramatic speech, waving drone pieces, declaring my geese a public nuisance. When she finished, I rose calm and deliberate. I presented the evidence of her flying the drone motion sensor logs, neighbor testimonies. A reporter asked if she had permission to fly over my land. Flustered, she admitted, "No, but it was for community standards." The room buzzed. The board fined her, banned her surveillance, and cleared me. I walked out. Commander Quack waiting in the truck, victory, sweet but fragile peace, returned briefly. But Lydia wasn't done. One Saturday, black SUVs roared, "UPAN Animal Control," citing anonymous complaints about dangerous wildlife. I required a warrant. They produced a flimsy HOA notice. No legal weight. Commander Quack and his flock honked, unnerving the officers. I stood strong, and they departed, vowing to return. I contacted my attorney friend Sarah, who verified Lydia's abuse. We filed a harassment complaint. I erected no trespassing signs, installed cameras, and posted warning aggressive geese signs for good measure. Lydia circulated new gossip, illegal breeding exotic animals. I responded with a farm day event to show neighbors the truth. Families laughed, fed chickens, and awed at Commander Quack's antics. Lydia seethed from her porch, her lies crumbling. Support swirled, neighbors apologized, businesses stepped in with offerings of sponsorships, and the county apologized dismissively, brushing off future grievances without evidence. Then Lydia drew out her final card to sign on her lawn. Homeowners for drone safety forcing drone surveillance to be legalized. It was desperate, perilous, if it picked up speed. With Sarah, I compiled a record, every complaint rumor scheme Lydia had unleashed. At the last HOA hearing, storm clouds gathered, mirroring the tension. The clubhouse was filled with onlookers. Lydia, in a sharp blazer, painted herself as a safety advocate, displaying fuzzy goose pictures with red-circled beaks. The crowd shifted skeptical. I brought out the truth. Footage log statements and a recording of Lydia boasting about destroying me. Her face palled. She stammered, exposed. The board ruled her guilty of harassment, fined her heavily, stripped her HOA position, and issued a restraining order. She eluded reporters pursuing her neighbors. Thanked me. The sheriff made a joke about a medal for Commander Quack. That evening, we celebrated music, food, children playing Commander Quack with a blue ribbon. Lydia's house went on sale. Weeks later, she was gone. Life settled sweeter than ever. One day, a mysterious package evaded a new drone marked for training. I laughed, then set it buzzing over the fields. Commander Quack led a gleeful attack, neighbors cheering. It was Goose Rodeo, a weekly spectacle. The news dubbed Commander Quack a folk hero. Sitting on the porch one evening, iced tea in hand, I scratched his neck, the fields golden under the sunset. We'd fought for this life, simple, honest, free. Lydia's tyranny had only forged us stronger. Proving strength comes from loyalty, community, and standing firm. Whatever came next, we'd face it with grit, humor, and a flock of unstoppable geese.